Episode 60, 5-to-1 Sitcoms.
The very business hillbilly guy.
What?
A business hillbilly? Wait.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of 5-to-1. 5-to-1 is all about the countdown from our panel of experts on a different topic each week. Today, we are featuring the best sitcoms in our style of counting down from
5 to 1.
Where were you, Jet?
5-to-1.
Man, we haven't podcasted in 2 months and you forgot everything? What's the deal?
He was mouthing the wrong lyrics to Friends.
I know all the lyrics.
All right, let's hear it.
No one told you it was gonna be this way. Your life's a joke, you're broke, your love life's DOA. No matter what,
It's like you're always stuck in second gear.
When hasn't been your day, week, month, or even a year. But I'll be there for you, cause
When
you're
the
there
rain
for
starts
me
to pour.
too.
Yeah.
Later on.
Later on. Oh, that was pretty good, Jet. I'm actually impressed. Usually, you totally just do for lyrics.
I actually know the lyrics. The only thing that screw up is the second gear part.
Okay. Well, you did well. I'm proud of you. Good job. Before we get any much further, we should probably introduce ourselves. We haven't been on the air in 2 months. So here is our panel. I'm Chris, and I'm joined by my two situationally comedic sons.
Cade,
That's
more.
my 14-year-old,
Jet Maximus Keithmore.
my 11-year-old, and we are
5-to-1.
5-to-1. Holy crap, it's been a long break.
Yeah.
Let's be better.
Yeah.
It's my fault.
Amen, brother.
I've been trying to do this the whole time.
I know, it's my fault. I've been really, really tied up. I've been a bad podcaster. So
Been caught up at work.
yeah, so we will be better from here forward, and that is
You
a
will
guarantee.
be better.
Yeah, but when I do better, we do better, because when I do better, we actually record.
Yes.
Did you guys have any rules for your list?
Only one animated.
Okay.
I was going to do that, except I don't have many animated ones on my list except for one.
My only rule is that it actually had to be a comedy, because people hear sitcom and they think like TV show.
All of mine are comedies.
Sitcoms and TV
Situational
shows.
comedies.
Yeah, it's a situational comedy. So there were some shows, and I'll mention one that's in my honorable mentions. It's a show that I love, but to me is not a sitcom. Even though it's a family show, it's not a comedy. So I left it off my list. So that was really my only rule. I also tried to kind of space out the timing. I didn't want 5 sitcoms from the 80s, which is generally my go-to. But other than that, another reminder to our longtime listeners, we have changed the format up on our show. If you're looking forward to the fun fact of the week or Jet's pun of the week, we'll get to those once we are done with our lists and listener choices. Good?
Yes.
All right, well, let's just get started then. Hey, Cade, what's your...
Number 5.
So I know what this is because I was spoiled to it. This is Drake and Josh.
Yeah.
I need... okay, here's the thing. We're going to have some generational gaps in our list here.
Yeah, I'll explain.
Okay, go ahead. Tell us
right.
about Drake and Josh.
All right. The theme song, by the way, was directed by the character, Drake.
Yeah, because
Fun
they
fact.
are musicians.
Yeah.
And
Drake is, not
the
Josh.
animated Ultimate Spider-Man show aired on 2015. Drake from Drake and Josh voices Spider-Man.
Oh, interesting.
Cool.
Okay.
Drake and Josh is about how two brothers that are complete opposites. Like, one's kind of like a popular kid. He's athletic, can play music, and the other one's kind of like fat and kind of
And funny.
Funny and kind of a
But
loser.
he's very good looking now.
He's very good looking now, yeah.
He's kind of like Neville from Harry Potter. He was a dorky kid, but grew up to be a very handsome man.
Yeah. And, like, at the time, there weren't, like, a ton of really good shows for Nickelodeon.
Yeah, this is like a Nick Jr. type show or Teen Nick or something
Yeah,
like
something
that.
like that.
Yeah.
Nick at Night, I think it was.
So here, before you go any further, for our listeners, this is how I can relate Drake and Josh to people who might now know it's some of the people from it. Drake and Josh was the two guys you mentioned, and they had a younger sister
Who was actually iCarly.
who became iCarly on her own TV show, which is another Nick show.
Are
And
they
then
connected on the same timeline?
No, but then iCarly ended up. Well, I don't know if it's related or not. There was another show shortly after iCarly called Victorious, right? Mm-hmm. And Victorious and iCarly did have some crossover, and Victorious also spawned pop superstar Ariana Grande.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's like a time frame for the listeners who aren't aware of these Nick Jr. shows. Ariana Grande, everybody knows who she is, probably. She was from this like lineage of the Nick Jr. shows, kind of starting with Drake and Josh.
That's not true, though, because they had like 5 crossovers, not just one.
That is not relevant to what I'm saying.
Yes.
So continue, Cade. Why is Drake and Josh your number 5?
It was a great show. Like, I mean, that was a pretty bad explanation.
Good show.
But like, it's one of those shows that has like a lot of iconic moments.
Yeah.
Like very unique and has like their own slogans and stuff. Because a lot of shows now, they like trying to leech off of the fame of like iCarly and have like their own system of doing things and, you know, funny moments and stuff like that.
Right.
It's one of those shows where you can't duplicate that. Like,
yeah, it was, this was one of the shows that when you watched, I didn't mind watching it with you. I thought it was entertaining too. I mean, it's silly and cheesy at times, but I mean, that's to be expected. Yeah. So, and you did watch this show a lot, so yeah, I can understand why it's on your list.
And like, the little sister was like an evil genius to them. And so when they would be like, think they'd get out of trouble for doing something, the sister would be like, I got you. If you don't work for me for the next month, I'll tell mom that you did this.
Right. She was
also,
kind of controlling them.
I remember one episode very fondly. I don't know why I remember this episode, but she had a hamster, and she had to go, and her only option was Drake and Josh to take care of the hamster. Then the hamster died, and Drake and Josh did it, like, on total accident. And then iCarly, I'm just going to call her that, came back and was actually okay and said that they tried, and they were all happy.
My favorite moment is when they're all building a treehouse, and they build it from the inside since they don't really have a ladder.
Yeah.
So after you climb up, and they nail and saw all the stuff in, and they're like, and Josh was like, okay, now to, put the door on. And they're like, the door was down there. And they're like, we just like spent the time doing this. And he goes, don't worry, I outlined where the door was.
but still couldn't
get out.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, good one, Kate. All right, Jet, what's your number 5?
All right, before I play this, I'll just play it first, actually.
Where'd it go? All right, so obviously yours is Full House.
Honestly, if I'm going to be honest, this is originally not going to be on my list, but I just figured it's so popular and it's kind of good, even though it's cheesy, that it's kind of really bad that it made my list.
It's okay. I mean, okay, my experience with Full House, it was my favorite show when I was like 8 or 9 years old. So this would be my Drake and Josh, I guess. I watched this. It came on Friday nights, TGIF, and I watched it every Friday when I was that age. I remember I would have baseball games, and we'd go to CC's Pizza afterwards, and we'd watch Full House on their big screen TV because we didn't have a big screen TV back then. And I love this show. It comes on TV a lot now, and I can't watch it. I mean, it's one of those shows that just does not hold up over the test of time, although I do really, really like Uncle Jesse.
Yeah, I guess he's cool. He's kind of a ripoff of Joey, though.
What?
Joey's way cooler.
Didn't Joey have his own show?
Joey is lame. Are you kidding?
No, Joey from Friends.
Oh, well, Jesse definitely came first.
Well, still, Joey just improved him, like, completely.
They're not the same at all, though.
They're kind of...
No, Joey's, like, dumb and funny. Uncle Jesse's, like, cool and a rock star, not dumb.
He's good at life lessons and stuff.
Has great hair.
They both have a black jacket. Like, that's all you need.
That's all you need to be.
Joey did in, like, one
similar.
episode. Yeah, they're not the same at all. Okay, well, interesting that you had that on your list because I don't think you've seen it very much.
I have.
I've seen it.
a lot of episodes.
Okay, fair enough.
Like,
all right.
No one has seen the full show of Full House.
When you said Joey, I thought you meant Uncle Joey. There's a Joey on the show.
The dumb blonde one?
Yeah, cut it out. That does like 5 impressions. He only does 5 impressions, and he does them on like every episode. It's like Popeye and Bullwinkle, and maybe just 2 impressions. I don't know. Like that. I just remember those.
I hate Diego too.
Diego.
Dingo.
What are you talking about?
The brown haired guy. The very business hillbilly guy.
What?
A business hillbilly? Wait.
Are you talking about the dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Business hillbilly.
I have no idea.
Let's move on.
All right. His name's Danny, by the way. Danny Tanner.
Danny, that's it.
All right. My number 5. I'll play the theme song right now.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got.
This was on when we did
Taking a
theme
break
songs. This
from
was my
all
number
your
1.
worries sure would help a lot.
I mean, you probably don't remember the show.
Wouldn't you like to get
It's got the best theme song of all time.
I think I know the theme song.
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name.
It's Cheers. The name of the show is Cheers, aired from 82 to 93. It was a long-running sitcom. And I did not appreciate this show enough when it was actually on TV because it's aimed more at an adult audience. It's not really a family sitcom. So I didn't really get the jokes or watch it enough as a kid, although I do remember watching it. It's got the best theme song ever going for it, and it actually is hilarious. I like it much more as an adult. The main character's name is Sam. He's a bartender. He owns his own bar in Boston, and he's a former baseball player. And the show centers around the bar employees and the regular patrons there, and their personalities and humor are very endearing, enough to make it my number 5 sitcom of all time. Cheers.
Nice.
All right, Cade, what's your
Number 4.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Okay? This is iCarly, right? You've talked about this show before on our show.
I think it's one of those shows that can't hold up either. I can't watch it now.
You can't watch it anymore? I mean, this
It was
one...
funny when I was a little kid, but not anymore. Not anymore. I can't stand it now. It's
You were really into it, and this is one that I didn't like very much when you... I mean, it can be funny at times, but it's so stupid most of the time.
and like everyone at school loved this show.
I'm
like
sure they
everyone did. It was like
I mean, you were young when you watched this, probably like 2nd, 3rd grade, around that age.
So
Yeah.
when we were going to Taco Casa, I think, or some other place, me, you, and Mom were eating there, and you were playing, they were playing iCarly, for, like, I don't even know how,
Yeah.
but they were playing it, and it was like, like Kate said, it did not hold up well. But I still was entertained, because
Yeah.
iCarly.
I remember when we did the theme songs episode, Kay, didn't you do like a mashup of this one and Victorious?
yeah, because I couldn't choose between both theme songs because both theme songs are great theme songs.
They are good songs. They're very catchy.
So they did a mashup episode, and
Yeah, gotcha.
I think that was like one of my best top ones ever. So clever.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I like this one. I also like this one. Mash them up.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, Jet, what's your number 4?
Well, my number 4 is a really awesome show.
This is going to be fun to edit.
I love this. This is my only animated show.
The Simpsons.
You don't watch The Simpsons.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so Simpsons is your number 4.
I could name everyone in that photo.
I would hope so if I made your list.
Anyway, I like The Simpsons a lot, and honestly, I like Family Guy more, but this is more of a sitcom to me. Even though Family Guy has, like, over-the-top jokes, and it has way more joking than Simpsons, it's just, like, the jokes are too much, in my opinion, to be a sitcom.
Do you know the name of my favorite character? The clown?
Krusty.
Krusty. So I think you're right that this is more of a sitcom than Family. Family Guy is more of a comedy. This is more of a situational comedy because I think what that means, situational comedy, is that the show is about other things, right? Like the show is about the Simpsons family, but then they have comedy in there to keep it funny. Whereas Family Guy is more about the comedy than it is about the Griffins, in my opinion. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I definitely agree.
So I like this choice. I love The Simpsons. I haven't watched it in like probably 15 years. I used to watch it a lot. It's been on air for ever.
I think it has like 30 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how long it's been on.
You know, the actor, the Indian the Indian, shop worker guy.
Yeah, at the convenience store.
Yeah, at the convenience store. He actually came out and was like, "Yeah, I hate my character
Really? Because
Yeah,
he's so
Because he's
stereotypical.
so stereotypical.
Yeah.
The guy that voices him is white. I mean,
Yeah.
he's just didn't like how they portrayed him.
It is
very
like I mean the character was generated in a time where people weren't as aware of cultural sensitivity issues, so I could totally see that being a bigger issue now. Like I feel like I mean if it's on a show like Family Guy or South Park or something, it's expected, but you know, being on a sitcom that a lot of families watch, then yeah, it could be, you know, culturally
Cool
insensitive.
thing, the video I was watching for The Simpsons on YouTube came out 10 years ago.
Interesting.
Long time.
Yeah, that's an old YouTube video. All right, my number 4 you guys are not going to know at all. I'll go ahead and play the theme song, and it's not a familiar one, but I'll do it. The name of the show is 30 Rock.
I saw this on a bunch of lists online.
I love 30 Rock. It aired from 2006 to 2013. Genuinely one of the funniest sitcoms I've ever seen. And the thing is, I didn't watch it religiously, and it came out in a time when I was like, I don't watch sitcoms anymore, with one exception, and it's because like dramas have taken over. Like sitcoms don't hold my interest anymore like they did when I was a kid, and they don't rule TV anymore like they did when I was a kid. But I did watch this show, not religiously, but enough to have it resonate with me. It's a very funny show. It stars Tina Fey. She's kind of the main character. She's from Saturday Night Live. Used to be a cast member there. And it had other SNL cast members like Tracy Morgan. He's a regular on the show, and Alec Baldwin. So it's obviously like SNL heavy, and it has a lot of that type of comedy. And it's a show about making a TV show, and it's hilarious. So I haven't seen it in years, but it's funny enough. And there were some other shows that I wanted to include, but I knew you guys would. So I included this one instead. And I think it's funny enough to warrant a spot on my top 5.
Cool.
All right, Cade, what is your...
Number 3.
Talking over my bumpers.
There's 104 days of summer vacation. And school comes along just
Really bad video. It's the only one that's not copyrighted.
This is Phineas and Ferb.
Yeah.
Is this your one animated show?
One animated show I was allowed to have on my list.
Okay.
This is a sitcom to you?
It was on the list, so I don't know. It was on the list. I was like, "Man, this is a sitcom. That's awesome."
I mean,
love this.
sitcom is kind of a gray area. It's probably a bit of a stretch, but I would call it a kids show more than a sitcom. But it's still got comedy in it.
I wanted to have at least one, but no more than one.
Yeah. So I think this show has come up on a couple of your lists too. I feel
love
like there's
it.
a lot of repeats.
This show can hold up for like centuries.
Centuries. It is a very clever show and funny. I don't know if it counts as a sitcom.
It's not really funny. Like,
I think it's funny.
the humor in it, first of all, I don't know why I'm saying this, but the only problem is that they have one song every episode.
But their
saying.
songs are awesome.
But like, they don't really have much comedy in it. It's more like entertaining,
Okay.
my opinion.
I'm fine
It
with
was
it.
either this or Back at the Barnyard, so...
What?
You know about that show?
I don't even know what that is.
Back
No.
at the Barnyard, I'll have to show you clips from it.
All right, moving on. Jet, what's your number 3? Now, this is a sitcom,
It sure is.
and this is one that I left. This is The Office, obviously. I left it off my list because I knew you guys would have it. So, Jet, tell me why The Office is your number 3 sitcom.
Okay, there's so many good reasons I can name about how good the show is, besides the last 2 seasons. But besides that, this show is, like, my opinion, the most entertaining show to watch. It's, like, so funny. Because, like, this is the only show I never stop paying attention to. I never go on my phone or anything.
You'll watch it all the way through.
Yeah, it's just so funny.
It's also hard to watch.
Yeah, some episodes, like, it's, like, you know, it's, like, so
Embarrassing.
embarrassing for them. It's, like, so
Steve
hard to
Carell
watch.
is really good at, like, awkward comedy. And then you've got Dwight, who is, like, hilariously awkward.
What's your favorite clip from it, Jet?
My favorite clip, probably Kevin spilling the chili.
It's either that one or when Jim impersonates
Dwight.
Beats Bears beats Battlestar Galactica. That, and I love the Office parkour one. That one always makes me laugh. And then you've got the Jim and Pam love story, which I thought was way more interesting before they got together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was satisfying when they finally did, but then it was not as interesting after when they were a couple.
It was still interesting. The show really was always interesting until when Michael left.
Yeah, that was near the very end.
Then I'm just like, I'm done with
I think
this
this show does a really good job of balancing the comedy and the character development, because a lot of sitcoms you don't get into because the characters you're not invested enough in, or the comedy isn't funny enough. This show has a lot of both. When comparing it to Friends, which I'm sure is going to be on somebody's list here at some point, I feel like Friends was not as funny as The Office, but maybe was even more so on the character development. Like you got really invested.
The Office
in
is my number
Friends
one
character. Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, interesting. Jet, that's a good choice.
Thank you.
My number 3 is even more popular than The Office. No. You guys know what this is? So this show has become hard to talk about because the main character and the guy that is named
Bill
after
Cosby.
This is the Cosby Show.
We get it immediately when you say that.
Yeah. So it aired from 84 to 92. This is a case where I'm going to say that the show is bigger than the man, which is hard to say because it's named after Bill Cosby. He's the main character and the source of the comedy, and it's modeled after his own life experiences and stand-up routine. However, it's hard to talk about this show now without thinking about what a horrible person Bill Cosby turned out to be.
What did he do? Like, what's so bad?
We'll talk about that off air at some point. But this show is great. It dominated the TV market from 85 to 90, and you don't see sitcoms do that really anymore. And it's really the perfect blend of family and comedy. It's so funny, and it really hits the mark with so many family issues that are like relevant and relatable to the audience, and really just a remarkable show. It was really, really great. It's a shame that it's been tarnished by Bill Cosby's actions that have come to light. And he is a horrible person, and he's going to jail, and he deserves to. But the show is great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
That's beautiful.
You're welcome. Hey, Cade, what's your
Number 2.
Friends?
Yes, terrible video. Horrible quality.
Well, we get the point. You can close the video if you want. That's
Copyright.
fine. All right. So Friends is your number 2. We're on number 2, right?
Yeah.
Why is Friends your number 2?
It's Friends. I mean,
Yeah. It's a great
like-
show.
it's like, I don't want to include Friends because everyone's got Friends.
I'm not
It's
talking
I don't
about
want to
it.
leave Friends off. I love Friends. And then
Yeah.
I don't want to talk
it's a
about
great show to fall asleep to.
Yeah. It's on TV a lot. Like you can almost always find it on a channel
Yeah.
in the evening hours or even overnight. I will tell you my experience with Friends. It didn't make my list, and it's because I knew you guys would have it, and there were other shows I wanted to talk about. But when it was on TV, it was kind of the age of Napster and Morpheus and Kazaa and eventually torrent downloads and all these software applications you could use to download songs and videos. And I downloaded every episode of Friends. And that's how I caught up with the show, because I didn't really watch them when I was in high school. I did a little bit, but I caught up with them later by downloading all of them when I was in college. And once I started to get into it, I was like, oh, this show is great. And I watched every episode. And then the series ended. I remember the series finale was when I was in college in Arizona. And it was a big event. Like everybody wanted to watch the series finale of Friends. And it was emotionally gripping. It's funny. There are some hilarious moments. It's emotionally
actually
gripping.
have some like deep moments though.
Yeah, for sure. And you get really, really, really invested in the characters. Like
And this
Ross
is-
and Rachel was a big thing. Like it was important to me that they ended up together, right?
Like The Office, like I've already said, the last 2 seasons like fell off because of Michael and all that stuff. But this show stayed good all the way.
I will say I got a little bit less interested when Monica and Chandler became a thing.
It was still interesting.
It was
though.
great when they were hiding it, and it was funny.
Oh,
Once they
yeah.
became like a couple that everybody knew about, I was kind of like, no, I'm not as interested.
I love when Phoebe found out. She was looking at the window. She's like, "Oh my God, what are they doing?" And they're like screaming. And then Rachel came in, and then she started screaming. And then Ross came in, and they're all screaming. And Ross is just like, and then they say, "We're just so glad you're moving in." And then he goes, "Ah!" And they all scream. together.
What are you doing to my sister?
And then they all meet up and they're like this, right?
Yeah, Kate's up and dancing, by the way, right now, since you guys can't see that. Yeah, I mean, it's a great show. It deserves to be on my list. It's just not because, I didn't put it on my list. Whatever. Okay.
Feel bad leaving it off though.
A little bit, but I knew we would talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, if I were to actually put it on my list, it would probably be number 3. I'd put it ahead of The Cosby Show, but behind my number 2 and number 1. So I guess I'll talk about my number 2 now. You guys...
What about me?
Oh, yeah. Jet, what's your number 2? I'm just going to let this play.
I don't know the future, but the past seems clearer every day.
This is the Goldbergs. All right, Jet, why is this your number 2?
What a great theme song.
I was gonna. This was originally my number 1, but I just couldn't let it be.
Okay.
Those are for different reasons, but this is my number 1 because this show. Number 2. Sorry. This show has 2 characters in it that I'm a mix of. This is not the reason. I'm just saying. A mix of Barry Goldberg, kung fu moves / awesome rapper.
Yeah. He's the middle brother.
And Adam, a huge fan of the 80s and very nerdy.
Yeah.
Who am I?
I'm not really nerdy, though.
Jet and I talked about this. We think you're most like the older sister, Erica. She's like...
I have no idea who...
she's like pretty and popular and social.
Let me
and
tell you
talented.
If I tell you the premise
also kind of sneaky and...
She's smart.
yeah.
Candy.
And she's smart. She's really smart. You're like Erica.
Okay. I'm just going to tell you the premise of the show, and then you'll just believe me immediately why it's my second favorite. This show takes place in the 80s, and it's still relevant today. Okay, one amazing reason. Almost all the episodes are either based off of a movie or going to see a movie. Just something relevant to an 80s movie, and that's it.
Yeah, you're right.
That's just enough.
Right up your alley. All right, good choice. All right, my number 2, I'm sure you guys will recognize the theme song, and you're probably going to groan at me when I play this, but whatever. This is my number 2.
When I wake up in the morning sun morning, I don't think I'll ever make it on time. By the time I
You know what it is?
No.
Hold on. This part. Wait.
guess I'm saved by the bell.
Saved by the Bell is my number 2.
I understand.
This show was so important to me during my late elementary and middle school years, so kind of like Jet's age right now. It aired from 89 to 93, just 4 years, but when I think back to Saved by the Bell, it feels like it lasted 20 years. Like I felt like I watched it forever. It was an after-school staple in my life. Every day I come home from school and put on Saved by the Bell. Zach Morris and Kelly Kapowski were like the power couple for me during those years. Maybe along with Kevin Arnold and Winnie Cooper from the Wonder Years, but we'll circle back to that later. AC Slater, the wrestler, he was a badass. Screech was annoying, but whatever. Jesse Spano, Lisa Turtle, Mr. Belding, the extra few characters that they subbed in and out over time. It was silly and campy and probably even cheesy, but it will always hold a special place for me. I love the show so much that I even watched the college years, which were bad, but I still loved it because I loved the characters.
Hey, yeah, I caught you watching that.
Yeah, I found it on Hulu, and I ended up watching the whole thing.
I could tell you were kind of lying, though. You're like, it's really stupid.
It is, but I had to watch it anyways. I don't think I'd ever finished the college years all the way through until I watched it on Hulu recently. And, I mean, it was really dumb. It was really dumb, but I loved it because the characters were important to me.
Has there when there's like a really popular TV show, they like have another TV show like that's like
they'll take a character and spin it off.
Sam and Cat are like Has there any has there been a good one?
Okay, so one of the most popular. This did not make my list because I don't like the show at all. But one of the most popular sitcoms of all time was a spinoff of Cheers, and it was Frasier.
Oh.
Frasier was a regular guy who would come into the bar at Cheers, and he got his own show, and it became one of the most successful sitcoms of all time.
Because there's Joey, and I heard that.
Yeah,
really bad.
Yeah, you're right. Some of them
Joey
don't work.
got his own show.
Yeah.
What was it called?
Joey.
Did it suck?
I never watched it. It didn't do well.
How did it suck? It's like
Joey worked
fan
as a
favorite.
character in an ensemble cast. He's not a strong enough character to hold his own show. All right, so Saved by the Bell, my number 2, and I have no regrets on that because, you know what? I love that show. All right, Kate.
I mean, I don't blame you. We already talked about like, number 1.
Number 1.
The Office. We already talked about this. Let's move on.
Okay, you don't want to add anything else? We just talked about it a lot,
Great
I
show.
guess. All right, Jet, you're number 1. I know what it is.
I'm not even gonna play the theme song.
It's Friends.
Yes, it's
Okay,
Friends.
so talk about. You said you weren't going to say anything when Cade was talking about it. Why is Friends your number one?
Because the theme that works the best in this show, it's kind of obvious, but the comedy works the best in this show than any show because it has a perfect mix between actual good story and touching moments and comedy.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. We've talked about it a lot already. Who's your favorite character on Friends?
The bartender.
Gunther?
Yeah, Gunther.
Okay.
Just because of his name.
Yeah.
Joey or Phoebe, they're like neck and neck.
I think
to me.
Phoebe's my favorite.
Phoebe's great. Joey's mine. I think I laughed at Ross the most often. I laughed at Joey the hardest because when he's sometimes some of the stuff he does, it just like I would have when I'm watching TV shows. Very rarely do I actually laugh out loud. I usually just kind of like laugh inside or chuckle. There were moments that Joey made me laugh out loud. So he was my favorite, and of course I loved Rachel because she was hot, and Ross and Rachel.
Who's the
Ross
hottest?
is hot.
Huh?
You say Ross is hot?
Ross
No.
was kind of
He's
weird
goofy looking. But I loved
What about
Ross and Rachel
Russ?
together. Russ,
Ross and Rachel are the best couple in the show.
for sure. It was weird when Joey and Rachel were together.
I know. Hated that.
Yeah. All right. So we'll move on to my number one.
I'm twisted up inside, but nonetheless I feel the need to say
My theme is better than yours because I edited it myself.
I don't know the future, but the past keeps getting clearer every day.
My favorite intro song. I tried not to have this show as my number one, but I just couldn't put anything else here. It's the Goldbergs, if you don't know. And I think maybe a lot of our listening audience doesn't know because it's a relatively new show. It's still airing, actually, like season 5, I think.
Just came out. I heard on the radio.
just
I'm
came out
playing an
this week.
8-bit game in my head. One more hit, then I'll be dead.
It's seriously just about perfect. For those that haven't seen it, it's the only current sitcom I watch. The creator, Adam Goldberg, grew up in the 80s, and he loves the 80s and everything about it and all of its glorious pop culture. And as a child, he filmed much of it on this gigantic camcorder growing up, right? So he has a lot of the stock footage, and he's taken that and he's turned it into those memories and turned them into this amazing sitcom that kind of center around his real life stories. But then, of course, they're funnier because they're on TV. And he ended up becoming a filmmaker. And because of all this pop culture influence that the 80s had on him. So like Jet said, they take these, themes for each episode. Not every episode is themed, but a lot of them are, where
Most
it'll
of
be
them.
like a Breakfast Club theme. And the episode has its own story and its own character development within the show, but it'll theme around something specific for that episode. It hits all sorts of 80s nostalgic feels. It's hilarious. It's heartwarming. Your mom started watching it this past week. We've watched like 10 episodes. She's cried during like 8 of them. Not lying. It really does pull at the heartstrings.
This is like me and your show, Dad, because we both are in love.
I can't remember the last time I cried on a show.
Yeah.
You're more, but I still love the 80s.
Yeah, you're right up there with me. All of the characters are endearing and quirky. My favorite, we talked about this a little bit. My favorite is the mom, Beverly.
There's so many.
Cracks me up. She's so funny.
All the characters, she's the one character that does really, really annoying stuff, and you don't even care. You still love her because she's a mom, and you can relate because that's how moms are.
Yeah.
I can really totally because I got a mom.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, so Goldbergs are my number one. Hey, Kate, do you have any?
Honorable mention.
In fact, I actually came prepared. All right. I had Family Guy,
Okay.
The Sweet Life on Deck.
Don't know that one.
It's
is
the
it with
Sprouse
the
brothers,
brothers? The
Cole and
yeah,
I don't know the other one's name.
the twins that they played the kid on Big Daddy.
Yeah,
Sprouse, Cole and Dylan Sprouse.
I didn't know the Dylan. But yeah, I knew Cole Sprouse, but Lab Rats. I watched that one a lot. It's
Dude,
about
the
these,
show was really good until Adam left.
yeah, Adam left.
Never heard of it.
All right, there's
You don't have to explain it. It's
That
honorable
show's not
mention.
that good, honestly.
and then Back at the Barnyard, and Back at the Barnyard almost made my list. All right, it was about a farm, and
Oh,
the
don't-
cows talking. They
please.
had to hide from the people.
He
and
listens
they all-
to the song all the time.
Oh gosh, you don't need to play it. You're gonna play it anyways.
It's Biggie Cheese, like Biggie Smalls, but Biggie Cheese. So funny.
I'm just gonna turn your volume down. This is dumb. All right. Do you have any others?
That's it.
All right. Jet, do you have any
Nah.
honorable mentions?
No.
Okay, I had a couple. I'll go through them real quick.
One more. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
That was one of mine,
had a
too.
really good theme song.
Yes, that's another good one. Growing Pains was something I really wanted to put on my list, but did not find a spot for. Another big one that I think a lot of people would count as a sitcom because it's a family show is The Wonder Years. Great show. I love The Wonder Years, but I didn't put it on my list because it's not a sitcom to me. Because there's
Is that the one with the 3 kids?
There's no comedy. Yeah, there's 3 kids. Kevin Arnold, who is the main character, is kind of told like through his perspective. A narrator talks for a lot of it. It's an adult. It's like him as an adult talking. You'll recognize Kevin Arnold. He's the kid from The Princess Bride.
Oh.
You know who I'm talking
Wait,
about?
which one?
Kevin Arnold. He's also
The main character?
Yes, he's also in Little Monsters. Like you'd recognize the actor.
Oh,
if you
yeah.
saw him.
I know him.
I love that show, but it's not a sitcom to me because it's not a comedy. Maybe it had some funny moments, but it wasn't a comedy show. Three's Company. I love that show. Boy Meets World. Night Court. Freaks and Geeks. Alf.
They have a Girl Meets World, and it's terrible.
Yeah, I know. I saw it. Alf. Do you know what Alf is?
Dog?
No. It's about an alien puppet. Like, it looks like a puppet, but he's an alien. His name's Alf. Came and lived on Earth with his family.
I don't know.
Really stupid, but really funny. And then one that, like, I recognize its greatness, but it just wasn't ever one of my favorites, is Seinfeld. So I had to have it as an honorable mention. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Hey, Cade, what's
The worst.
Seinfeld.
You got to be kidding. The worst?
I think it's really overrated. We watched, like, a lot of it in English class because our teacher liked it, and it just wasn't that funny.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to have to call shenanigans on this. The worst?
Yeah, I mean, it's all right. I mean, but I think
I
it's
think
really overrated.
Cade, I think you would love Seinfeld if you watched more of it. It is hilarious. You probably just need to see some. Maybe you just didn't see a funny episode or something.
No, otherwise, it would be Fuller House because
Fuller House?
Yeah, I watched one episode. I was like, this is so stupid.
Yeah, it was really bad. Yeah, like I didn't include Seinfeld on my list. It's not in my top 5, but I recognize it is a great show, and it is really, really funny. It's probably most people's number 1 sitcom of all time. So I can see why you would put it on the overrated if you don't like it.
Yeah.
I think you need to watch more of it. It's like the comedy holds up. It's still funny, and the characters are likable too. Interesting. All right, Jet, what's your worst?
Honestly, this is the first time I'm being unique on this show. Just hear me out. My worst is Full House. Let me explain.
Didn't that also make your top 5?
Yes, let me explain. You've told me this before, and when I first watched Full House, I did not like it at all. I thought like it was so cheesy and the characters are really bad.
Yeah.
But as I became an 80s fan, I realized this show would be awesome in the 80s. So, therefore, I put it as my worst and one of my favorites.
I feel like Full House is more of a 90s show than an 80s show, though. I
What?
mean, it probably started in the 80s, but into the early 90s.
Whatever.
Okay. Interesting that it made your top 5 and your worst. My worst, I considered 3 shows. One of them we've talked about before is George Lopez, but I did not pick that one.
It's so bad.
I know.
It's like not funny. They try to be funny.
Dad,
It's just not funny.
It almost makes my worst on like every
Dad,
episode we do.
you're the one who despises like the show out of all of us. I'm surprised that's not your worst.
I also considered The Big Bang Theory because
Oh my god.
I hate the actor.
But here's the thing. I have never really watched it enough to like rate it. I feel like it's overrated because a lot of people love that show. I'm not interested in the premise. I'm not interested in the actors. I'm not even going to give it the time of day. But I can't say it's the worst because I don't have
haven't seen
enough
it.
to comment.
I really don't like the actor on that show.
He's annoying and the one-liners are not funny, but whatever. For my actual worst, I'm going to pick 2.5 Men because I have seen parts of it and I hate it. And the theme song makes me want to like stick a pen in my ears so I don't have to hear it anymore.
Is that the one with Charles Sheen?
Yes, Charlie Sheen, and it's got that kid, and it's got the actor. You probably don't know who he is, but he's from Pretty in Pink. His name is Ducky in the show, in the movie. Anyway, the theme song is like nails on a chalkboard to me. I can't stand it. I can't stand the show. So that's what I'm going with for my worst. So let's move on to listener choices. We asked social media, what's the best sitcom? And we got 155 votes.
I liked it. I didn't.
You didn't vote, and that's good because I wouldn't have counted your vote because you're on the show.
I had one really clever thing I did. I said no, it's not important.
Okay. Well, let's go over the top 5 shows from the listener choice votes. Number 5 was on my list. It's number 5 also. It was Cheers. Number 4 was on both of your lists, The Office.
Number 3.
Number 3, Big Bang Theory.
I saw so much of the Friends on that.
Number 2 and number 1 are by far it was a close race,
Seinfeld.
but it came down to these two. Number 2 was Friends and number 1 was Seinfeld. Most people pick Seinfeld. So those are your top 5 sitcoms according to our listeners, and we don't argue with the listeners. All right, let's move on to the
Pew pew pew
Good.
pew
Glenn Solomon fun fact of the week.
pew pew pew
Good.
pew.
Since we didn't give Seinfeld enough love on the show, and in fact gave it some hate from Cade's list, I thought we'd do a fun fact about it. I've heard over the years, this has been rumored for a long time, that Jerry Seinfeld, the main guy, was a huge fan of Superman. And so that he managed to sneak in a unique Superman reference into every episode, and there were 172 episodes of Seinfeld. So I was going to share that as the fun fact. However, as I was researching it, it turns out this is most likely just an urban legend. There are sites dedicated to this, but if people claim they can find a reference in every episode, they're really stretching in a lot of cases. He's got a Superman statue and a Superman magnet on his refrigerator, and they'll show up in a lot of episodes, still not all 172. But if you don't count those as unique Superman references, there's actually only 46 episodes that have a unique Superman reference. And this is coming from a Superman expert who did a lot of research on this show.
I know something about Superman.
Is it about Seinfeld?
Superman 1 and 2, the original, were really loved. And Superman 3 wasn't bad, but they thought Superman for the Quest for Peace or something like that was going to be good, but it was a huge disappointment.
It was a big bust. You're right about all of that. Although it's not related to Seinfeld at all. There are some people who will then count some of like the episodes where there's an actor, her name is Terry Hatcher. She was in another show that was a Superman show, and I think it was called Lois and Clark or something like that. And they would count when she was in Seinfeld too as a Superman reference, which that's really a stretch to me. But even if you count those, you come up short of 172. So my fun fact is that the urban myth about Superman being in every Seinfeld episode is not true. I love Jet's face when I play that. All right, Jet, since you're on the queue. It's time for Jet's Pun of the Week. What you got, bro?
I love the way Earth spins. It really makes my day.
But
Does he get a clap?
do you want to clap for that, Jet?
Give me a clap.
All right, well, I got to stop your song first if I'm going to give you a clap because that's a different sound clip. Oh, I don't have it on here anymore. Sorry.
You have a good job?
Do I have good job?
Good job.
Okay.
Good job. Good job.
All right, you good with that?
Yeah.
All right, so that's basically our show, unless you guys have anything you want to add.
Oh, well, we are going to say the suggestion for the next episode.
Well, we do that at the very end every time. You always screw it up. Let's thank everybody first. How about that? Let's thank our listeners who voted, all 155 votes that came in. We really appreciate that. We also want to thank anybody who's actually listening to this show, especially this far in the show. Please check out our Facebook page that we have. It's called 5 to 1 Podcast. We don't get enough action there, to be honest. It's of all the social media sites that we're on, not enough people interact with us on our Facebook site that's dedicated to 5 to 1 Podcast. A lot of people interact on my personal page, and so that's where I put most of the stuff. But if you're listening to this, go check out our Facebook page. We'd love to get more active there because I don't accept friends that I don't know on Facebook, and I would like other people who aren't my real life friends to be able to interact with us there. We do get some interaction on Twitter at 5 to 1 Podcast, and on our Instagram page, also with the same handle, 5 to 1 Podcast. So you can also check us out there. You can give us your opinion. You can let us know if you agree or if you think we're idiots. I already have a feeling that faithful listener Sonia Barber is going to spam us some hate about our Seinfeld or lack thereof on this episode because she warned that she would yell at us from Nebraska if we did so. So yeah, go there, give us your opinion, and it's also a great spot to leave us ideas for future episodes. What we really, really love is when people give us reviews on iTunes. And that reminds me, I should probably give a shout out to the latest reviews we got, except I'm not going to pull it up right now. So we'll do it on the next episode.
Yeah.
It helps our podcast gain exposure if you can take the time to give us a review on iTunes. So you should do that, and we would appreciate it, and we will read it on the show. One other way to get a hold of us, call us. We have a phone number. It's 469-607-5221. That's 469-607-5861. And please join us next time on 5 to 1 for our discussion on
Top 5 horror movie icons.
Boom.
That means like
I think, Jet, we should lead up to Halloween doing all Halloween-themed episodes from here on out.
Yay!
You down with that?
Before you do, I'm just saying, I know most people exit out because it's like the ending and no one listens to the ending.
Mm-hmm.
But I have been doing a lot of YouTube videos and research on horror movies.
All right, so we'll do that. Horror movie icons.
Or a movie.
You can
Love
love
you.
you.
Love you.
Love you.
Love
Love
you.
you. Love
Love
you.
you.
Love you. Love you. Love you. I love you.
Love you.